Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some late night breaking news, not only for Ohio State fans, but for the whole college football world. Is one of the top quarterbacks available in the transfer portal, Will Howard, committing to Ohio State. We kind of heard some buzz that this was picking up some steam, becomes official late Thursday night. And Dill, we talked about it earlier yesterday morning when you started hearing this kind of picking up some steam. Massive fan of this. And many people who've listened to me talk about Will Howard know how big of a fan I am of Will Howard. And when you look to evaluate quarterbacks, you can talk about completion percentage. You can talk about touchdown passes. The stat that I look at the most is, are you winning football games for your team? Will Howard in 2022, Big 12 champion with the Kansas State team that does not recruit like teams like Oklahoma and Texas. You talk about a quarterback that elevates the offense around him. That's Will Howard. For me, this is a massive get. And is this to say Devin Brown, Lincoln Kienholz, Aaron Nolan can't battle out for this quarterback one spot heading into 2024? Absolutely not. But you know what you're getting with Will Howard. You're getting a leader. You're getting a winner. And then for Ohio State fans, there's a lot to be excited for. Excited to get into this one. You guys know how I feel about Will Howard. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. It has been a blast for the boys to talk transfer portal, talk about all the moving parts, the amount of support you guys have shown. It means a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And for Ohio State fans, sounds like Ryan Day starting to get active in the transfer portal. Sounds like we might have some more updates coming soon. Dale, I'm going to give you the T-box here. Will Howard coming to Ohio State. How we feeling?
And honestly, I think the way you kind of set it up was kind of how I think about it. It's not like, I think at the end of the day, Ohio State still probably wants Devin Brown to ultimately take this job because at the end of Devin Brown is the more talented quarterback. And again, that is doing a bit of recruiting watching, but you've seen Will Howard. He doesn't like dominate college football at the quarterback level, but you're right. He's tough. He's a winner. He can run. It's like when you need to grind a game out like a Missouri, when you're kind of like struggling or floundering a little bit, I think he's the type of guy who at least gives you a chance and it'll make Devin Brown or whoever takes this job earn it, because right now you don't really have anything proven in that room.
From one, like a proven floor, you get that with Will Howard. I would even push back against the narrative that Will Howard's not like a plus quarterback in an offense. And you see people like get on and talk about, is Will Howard an upgrade for Ohio State? For one, you don't really know what you have in that quarterback room, right? You saw Devin Brown. He's kind of been banged up pretty much every opportunity that he's gotten to take that quarterback one job. Lincoln Kienholz, I mean, clearly didn't look ready during that Missouri game. I know the offensive line was a disaster. One, you know what you're getting with Will Howard. And two, I would make the argument that we haven't even seen Will Howard like scratch the surface of what he can be. I mean, at Kansas State, that was not a gimmicky offense, but it wasn't an Ohio State offense with the weapons that he'll have around him. And are we going to just forget that Ryan Day has been phenomenal at developing quarterbacks? And so Will Howard, who's 6'5", 240 pounds, has a massive arm. Yes. Does he need to clean some stuff up? That 58% completion percentage, not as high as you'd want it, but to write Will Howard off as just that's what he is and not thinking that he can massively be elevated entering in this Ohio State offense, I think is extremely foolish for people to make that argument.
Well, and frankly, that's the big thing is he had no help at Kansas State. You think about who the receivers were. This year it was really only Phillip Brooks, and then I didn't really even name you the other guys.
Ben Sinnott, they're tight end.
That was the issue. They didn't really have that number 2 wide out, and Ben Sinnott is kind of like a hybrid fullback tight end of sorts. He's not going to be an ultra dynamic pass catcher in the league. I know that. So it's like he just didn't have a ton of help. But at the end of the day, that offense, it moved the ball very consistently, and they won a lot of football games under him. So I think you're right. It's like I can get up here and say, well, is he more talented than Devin Brown or Lincoln Kienholz or whatever? Again, I don't think we could really even know what he is because, again, if you stick one of those two guys or even some of the like maybe really good Ohio State guys in that offense, they're probably not as productive as they are because when you look at what Ohio State's had for the last 5 years, it feels like it's been extraordinarily offensive talent and also an extraordinarily good offensive play caller in Ryan Day.
Yeah, you talk about throwing the guys like Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and potentially Emeka Egbuka and Brandon Inniss. Like Will Howard's going to put up better numbers than he did at Kansas State. It's just going to look better. That's a fact. And another argument you can make, and I heard this and it made a ton of sense, is we can sit there and you'll get a lot of people just read Will Howard's box score and say, oh, is this an upgrade for Ohio State at quarterback? Well, Lincoln Riley wanted him at USC. Mario Cristobal wanted him at Miami. Ryan Day wanted him at Ohio State. Lincoln Riley and Ryan Day being two of probably the better evaluators of talent at the quarterback position, they both wanted him. And so for people to sit back at home and just read his box score and say this is an upgrade when two of the most knowledgeable coaches in college football, especially at the quarterback position, both wanted him, I think that tells you about Will Howard and how he's evaluated by certain coaches that know a hell of a lot about the quarterback position.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you got to put your faith in him. I mean, he's the head guy, and I guess if he misses on this or keeps missing in the future, I guess that's a conversation to have. But at the end of the day, Ryan Day's had a really good run of picking out quarterbacks. Justin Fields, CJ Stroud, Haskins, you can kind of go down the list. I mean, he's been doing it. So it's hard to say. It's hard to not believe in what he sees because that's what he came into Ohio State really as that
what he's done his whole coaching career. You know, this is why Ryan Day is one of the better head coaches in all of college football, because he knows offense, he knows quarterbacks just about as good as anyone across the country. And even moving beyond, and this is where I really like this move for Ohio State, even moving beyond what Will Howard is as a football player. Now you look at this Ohio State team. And what did they need? What seemed to be missing for Ohio State? What definitely showed in the bowl game was kind of that toughness, right? And that's been kind of a critique of Ryan Day and his tenure at Ohio State is this team as tough as what we've seen the Urban Meyer teams? And I think a lot of Ohio State fans would say no. I think it starts at the quarterback position. You talk about leaders on a football team. There's a reason the quarterback is the captain of every team across college football. Kyle McCord, and I'm not trying to drag Kyle McCord. He was not a leader. He was not a guy that I think galvanized that locker room. Will Howard is. He's tough as nails. He's a leader and he's a winner, and you want to inject that mentality.
Honestly, the biggest term you might use to describe him as competitor, and that's probably the one thing when you think Kyle McCord. Why is he transferring in the first place? It sounds like it has a lot to do with Ryan Day not just guaranteeing him being the starter. So you needed that. You needed that energy. You needed that. Yeah, that toughness, because, again, Ohio State doesn't lack for talent. They haven't lacked for talent in 10 years, it feels like. But you got to bring back some of that old Urban Meyer, like, toughness in your face kind of mentality. And I think, again, you talk, Will Howard, he's got that. I think he's got that in him more so than any of the quarterbacks they probably have on their roster right now.
100%. And so you combine that with, one, I think Will Howard can be a great player. Two, just elevating what you have. Like, you're not going into the 2024 season like, okay, we don't know what we have with Devin Brown. We don't know what we have with Lincoln Connells, and Aaron Nolan's going to be a true freshman. In terms of a bridge quarterback, like whether it's going to be Aaron Nolan or Lincoln Connells or Devin Brown in 2025, or if one of them emerges and wins this quarterback battle heading into 2024, if anyone beats out Will Howard, you know they're a ball player, right? If you were to just go in and kind of name a star, you don't really know what you have. And so I think from a quarterback play standpoint, it makes a lot of sense as well. Dill, I'm, as much as many of y'all know, I'm a Michigan fan, but like I am excited because Will Howard, is one of my favorite players in college football. There are a lot of haters out there saying that this isn't an upgrade. For me, I think this makes a lot of sense. I'm really excited to see what Will Howard can do in an offense run by Ryan Day, throwing to a ton of talented wide receivers. I think he turns a lot of heads. I think he has a lot of success. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.